Hello and welcome to this webinar about the Great Lakes today. I am joined again, like last week, by Jørn Henriksen and Lawton, our two intrepid expeditioneers, but they're right here so they can do a brief introduction of themselves.
Hello, my name is Jørn Henriksen. I'm the Director of Expedition Operations in Viking, and as you can see in the picture, here I'm standing on Casson Peak between Fraser Bay and Bay Finn. As a Norwegian, it was a tradition, well, not a tradition, but some Norwegians went to Ontario to become trappers and hunters back in the day when we had the big emigration from Norway. But otherwise, it's a relatively unknown place for Norwegians. And when we started Viking expeditions, we designed ships that were perfectly fit to go into the Great Lakes. And it became an adventure of pioneering in tourism like the Great Lakes have never seen before, and being a part of that and getting to see the Great Lakes, the contrasts and the magnificent nature on the shores is absolutely awesome. And here you can see I got to climb a little mountain as well, with the ship in the background as well. So it is really great to have these ships that can operate both in the Great Lakes and in polar regions.
Yes, good day, folks, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Lawton. I'm head of expedition operations for Viking, and I've been going into the polar regions and the small part of the world in between the polar regions on expedition cruise ships for the last 28 years or so. But I came actually from very close to where this photo up on Casson Peak is actually. I came into the expedition cruise industry from running a canoe and kayak guiding business out of Killarney, Ontario on Georgian Bay. And so it's really exciting to get to share with you my passion for the Great Lakes. I was a canoe and kayak guide in that region. And so over the course of this webinar, you'll learn about the Great Lakes and we'll hope to answer some of your questions.
Excellent. All right. Yeah, I remember this when I think we found out right when you joined that this is where you were from, and this is me in a canoe in that very same region. And I'll share a little secret with you. I'm in the lead, but the gentleman behind me, he's actually the kayak, or it's not a canoe, it's a kayak. And the gentleman who's behind me in the kayak, he actually does all the hard work. I ended up kind of splashing him wet with my paddles. But it gives you a sense of what it is like among these rocks. And this is in a part of the world called Georgian Bay. It's this big lobe that is part of Lake Huron. And as we travel through this webinar with you, you'll get to understand where all of these places are in the world. So welcome to Viking. First of all, we're going to, and we do this on many of the webinars. We give you a brief introduction to Viking as a company. We talk a little bit about how expedition cruising is different from regular ocean or river cruising. And then we talk about the destinations. And let's get started. This is a splendid shot. This is in Duluth, Minnesota. And we won the Traveler's Choice Awards with Condé Nast in 2024 and the World's Best Awards with Travel and Leisure. This is a slide that I like to call "Don't Take Our Word for It." There have been lots of people who have been voting in these polls that these two magazines organize, and we came out ahead in 24. This shows you that, especially with Travel and Leisure, it was by quite a good margin. And then, that's for now. This is what you need to know. We'll talk about Viking throughout this presentation. The other really important thing, and often forget to mention that at the beginning. This is for you. We do this so that we can answer your questions. And on the right-hand side of your screen, you should have a place where you can put in these questions. And throughout the webinar, we'll pause once or twice to start answering them. And then we'll do it at the end as well. And that's really, this is what we're here for. And I've been with Viking for 23 years. Jørn and Aaron have been in the expedition business for as long as they can remember. So please pick our brains. Please ask any questions you have, because that's what we're here for. And that's the experience that we bring to this webinar more than anything else. Okay, Viking's expeditions are different. And Jørn already alluded to it. We're an expedition ship on the Great Lakes. And what does that entail if we narrow it down to just that particular part of the world? The North American Great Lakes do see other ships. They don't quite see ships like ours. And on an expedition ship, and we'll get into that very quickly, we have a number of smaller crafts that allow you to get into the little nooks and crannies, these bays that you just saw, where Jørn and Aaron took almost the same picture from the same viewpoint. The ship is in the background, but in that bay that you may have seen, we bring in the smaller vessels that we also bring along. So that's one of the big differences. When you book our particular ship on the Great Lakes, you get an experience that others can simply not offer, because they don't have what we sometimes call the toys. It is in the Great Lakes kind of this mixture between nature and urban areas. We do visit cities. We visit Chicago. We visit Milwaukee, Detroit, Cleveland, Toronto. So you get a fair amount of an urban cultural experience, but also an experience that focuses very much on areas that are, best accessed by water. And we have, and we'll get to this in a minute as well, we have a science slant on things, and I'll talk about that a little bit more as we move along. Our inclusive value is something that we do across the board, whether you travel on the Mississippi with us, on an ocean cruise, on a river voyage, or on an expedition voyage. We like to say that we give you everything you need and nothing that you don't. And we do offer optional excursions. Those are things that allow you to customize, to make it your own journey. Those are things that not everyone will want to do, and therefore we haven't included it. But we do include one landing or one shore excursion in every port of call. There's free Wi-Fi. All onboard meals, of course, are included. Beer, wine, soft drinks with onboard lunch and dinner, and so on and so forth. We simply don't like to nickel and dime you. No one enjoys having to, at every twist and turn, either grab your wallet for cash or do, put down your credit card. We like you to know just about what you're going to spend by the time you're done booking. Okay, and we also like to call ourselves the thinking person's cruise rather than the drinking person's cruise. This was it's now become kind of a tagline for us. It was actually something that our owner and founder, Torsten Hagen, just said at one point. He's like, we're not doing this. We're not a drinking man's cruise. We're a thinking person's cruise. And so there we go. We don't think that learning is such a bad word to use. We want you to learn. We want you to understand what you're seeing. And quite often that can be, especially when you look at this particular picture, we have these submarines, our yellow submarines. And yes, they're called John, Paul, George, and Ringo. There's 2 of them on each of the vessels, and we have 2 of these, so 4 yellow submarines. And they allow you to take a peek underwater in select locations around the Great Lakes. We try to show you things that you might not see with your naked eye, or not without a little bit of help from, for instance, the submarine. We have microscopes on board. We do samplings of underwater life. we can sample microplastics in the environment, and that is the scientific angle. We'll get there in a minute, but very much keep this in the back of your head. We like you to engage with your environment. We like you to engage with the culture and with the nature of the places that you travel through. You have an expedition team on the ship, and you can see this list. I think Jørn or Aaron can talk a little bit about, the role of an expedition leader, because both of them have done this in the past. We have scientists on board. We have a chief scientist. We have a field scientist, and then we quite often have visiting scientists that we sponsor. We bring them on board, and we work with partners. So there's a very extensive team of people that helps you explore your environment, whether it is the wild environment or the more urban environment. Onboard enrichment. We'll, as we go through the different public areas on the ship, you'll start to see that we have quite a bit of space for you to absorb, to engage, to learn. This shot here on the top right-hand corner is in our lab. We have a complete wet and dry lab on the ship that our visiting scientists and our resident scientists use for all manner of scientific projects. And the great thing about this is you get to put that white coat on as well, and you as a guest also get to see the lab. And because this is kind of the agreement that we have with our scientists. They do science. They just do whatever it is that one of our partners has charged them with, and then all that we ask of the partners and of the scientists that we have on board, you just have to let our guests in and give them a really good explanation when they say, "What you doing?" So that's the purpose of it all. We do it whether you take an interest or not, but we'd like you to take an interest and ask as many questions as you would like. This is Expedition Central, and this is a very central location on the ship where you always find people who can help you find your way around the environment. You can just look at maps, that big table on the right-hand side. We call that our map table. It has a big digital map and a screen that you can do all kinds of things with and that you can use to display certain data. But there's also just maps that we roll out so that you can see where you are and ask questions about the environment, the geography of the places that you visit. This is also part of that Expedition Central area. It's facing it, and we call this the studio because this is quite often where people sit with their cameras. We can answer questions if you have any. We always, in that expedition team, have photographers. And you could say, well, they're amateurs. They're really not. They're like professional amateurs because a lot of our staff travel the world. And part of what they like to do is take pictures of whatever environment they find themselves in. We always have one or two people that have very impressive cameras and that have years and years and years of experience. And then in the background, you can see that wall, and it's a little difficult to see in this picture. But those are felt replicas of the birds that you find in the area that you travel through. So it just so happens that this particular bird wall still has all the penguins. Obviously, when you travel the Great Lakes with us, those are gone. You'll find, I think Aaron, Jørn, do you guys know how many birds are on the wall in the Great Lakes?
I think there's around 12.
Okay.
There's around 12 in that bird cliff, as I like to refer to it as.
Yeah.
And we have several sets depending on where we are, as you say. And these penguins that we see on this picture, we throw in the fridge when we're in the Great Lakes.
There you go. There you go. And they're life size and they're very, very precise. We've actually had the Cornell Lab of Ornithology help us with these. And we had a lady who does this for a living, and she didn't know what happened to her when we said, yeah, can you make us 36 birds? But she did. She did. Okay, this is the actual science lab. And again, we have a lot of equipment there. As much as possible, there are certain things that we would rather not have you handle, corrosive fluids and things like that. That's what we use a specialist for. But as much as possible, we get you engaged. If there happens to be a project on the ship that we need lots of hands for, we ask you to give us these hands, and you can become a scientist for a day or for more than a day. And we always find that there are some people who think that this is really the best part of their entire trip. So these are some of the science partners that we work with. I echo in this particular scenario does not apply, but this is a slide that we show in different presentations. So each of these partners, depending on where we are in the world, will work with us. We'll say, okay, well, that's an area that we're really interested in. And we would like you to help us collect data, whether it's Scripps Oceanography, the University of Western Australia. We do things with these entities, with these science partners, wherever they think they might have an interest. And then obviously the Scott Polar Research Institute, we don't work with them when we're in the Great Lakes. We have other partners who kind of move more to the foreground. This gives you an idea of the kind of things that we will do. That mapping of the seabed, that image is not the seabed, it's the lake bed. And I believe it's in Lake Huron. And that is a shipwreck that we discovered, I think, about a year and a half ago. Jørn or Aaron, do you remember was that the first year that we worked in the Great Lakes, or was it last year that Richard found that shipwreck? I don't remember.
It was last year, almost 2 years ago now, and that's a shipwreck, a fishing boat outside of Killarney that they discovered when they were actually just, I think, calibrating the research multi-beam.
Okay, and then I'll focus a little bit on the top middle picture that you see with that fish. This is also something that we do. It's a very simple instrument. It's a bracket that has several cameras mounted to it. It has a little bit of bait that the fish cannot get to, but they can sense it, they can smell it, and it attracts local underwater life that we simply then record with a camera, and that gives us an idea of the species that live there, the distribution of species, the frequency, and so on and so forth. So these are some of the things that we do as we travel through the Great Lakes. Weather balloons, very popular with our guests. This is not some show and tell that we just do for the heck of it. We actually work with the National Weather Service, and our two ships are the only non-Navy ships that have these weather balloon stations on them. They basically go up in the sky at some point. They explode when they go high up enough, and during the time that they go up, they record a very extensive set of data that we then beam over to the National Weather Service, and these things help really forecast the weather. Okay, then I talked about this already a little bit. The expedition equipment that we have on board, we have a set of military pro Zodiacs, and Jørn picked these, and we will not let Jørn talk about them because he can spend hours giving you every detail. What it suffices to say, Jørn, I think, these are just about the best Zodiacs that you can find on the market, correct?
Yeah, they're the industry standard for sure. So they are probably the most important tool we have for experiences when we're out there. But they work in concert with the other three things that we see on this picture.
Yes, and you should tell us about the special operations boats.
Yeah, the special operations boat is something unique to Viking in the expedition cruise world. It is 13-meter long boats that amounts to 40 feet approximately. They have 12 individually suspended, hydraulically suspended seats for guests, and there's a driver and there's a guide. It has this what's called Bimini roof that protects you, and you have great views and you're close to the water. And they have two engines and 2 water jets, and they are extremely seaworthy. And they take conditions that the Sodex kayaks that none of the other tools or toys that we have can handle, and we can operate them safely on longer trips away from the ship. So so that's great tools, and the whole infrastructure on board the ship in the hangar where they sit when they're on board is built around those boats as well. So that's we're very proud of having this unique product.
Okay. I do need to say that in the Great Lakes, the smaller vessels we cannot deploy everywhere. That has a lot to do with certain restrictions in urban areas and so on and so forth. But wherever we can, we deploy them because they're, like I mentioned earlier, they can get you to places where you cannot go with the bigger ship. And they give you a completely different experience, especially the kayaks. In my experience, once you sit at water level, nature around you looks very, very different. This is a room that I'd like to share with you, the aula on the ship. That is towards the rear, where you have, this. It's not 360, it's 270 degree view of your surroundings. And then on the stage, you often have people presenting particular topics. We would have the expedition leader who would talk about the next day's travel. He would also recap the day that you've just had. We might have one of the scientists explain what they're doing. And then we have a group of specialists who will talk about particular things, such like the bird life, perhaps the history of the Great Lakes, and so on and so forth. It's a place where people go to learn. And this gives you an idea of what this might look like during one of these. We're not all as heroic here as this particular speaker, but you get the idea. And right behind it is the Finse Terrace, named after Karina Hagen's first lab retriever. And you will actually find, if you look for it, in the pavement there, in one of these places where you can sit, they're a little depressed from the rest of the deck. You will find footprints, paw prints of Finse. And this is in front of the skyline of Detroit, the Motor City. This is the Nordic Spa, and spa access comes with the ticket of your price. You don't need to pay extra. You can use this whenever you feel like it. Certain treatments, of course, come at an extra rate, but you can lounge in that pool for as long as you like. And it's actually one of the best places to just watch the scenery or watch the sunset. I wouldn't say it gets busy. There's not many people that go to those lengths, but to go to the pool to watch the sunset, but it's sometimes really worth it. Okay, this is the Explorer's Lounge, and that kind of speaks for itself. This is an adaptation of the Explorer's Lounge that we have on the ocean ships. This sits high up. It basically provides just the best possible views on the ship in a very cozy environment. You can walk outside here as well. There's an awful lot of outside space where you can enjoy nature in, al fresco, as we call it. This is another picture of the upper level of the Explorer's Lounge. This is the World Cafe. The restaurants on the ship are kind of adaptations of what we have on our ocean vessels, but we have fewer of them, and they play a slightly different role. the World Cafe sees a lot of our traffic, and that has everything to do with the fact that the expedition feel on the ship eventually rubs off on our guests. And they have a quick bite for lunch and a quick bite for dinner, because then they want to go outside again and experience the great outdoors. And so that has a lot of traffic. We also have Manfredi's, and we have the restaurant. Those are all, those are basically offer very much the same kind of food that you would get on an ocean ship. The restaurant is our standard restaurant. Manfredi's is more of an Italian trattoria, if you will. And we have Momsen's, where you can get cakes, waffles, and Norwegian brown cheese. You're in Norwegian brown cheese, worst cheese in the world, correct?
Oh no. It's caramelized, it's sweet, and it's really, really good. So you can get it on this ship on the pizza, on the waffles, and we try to use it in many settings.
Excellent. I'm Dutch. Jørn is Norwegian. We fight regular cheese battles on occasion. This gives you an idea of what the rooms look like. And there's in the Great Lakes, I'll just point out the top feature. The bottom feature you won't use as much. You could, but you probably, unless you have a lot of inclement weather, you don't need the drying closet all that much. If you want, you can put your coat in there, and if it has rained on you, you put your coats in there, and the closet gently dries whatever garment you put in there. The big thing, I think, always is that Nordic balcony, and that's that window that you see. The top comes down, and you have this perfect ledge where you could keep like a little notepad to make notes as you see the scenery, as you watch the scenery go by. And each of the rooms is equipped with binoculars. If you're a birder, that's where you would sit to see what kind of birds you find as the ship moves along. This is a deluxe Nordic balcony suite. Or I shouldn't call it a deluxe balcony suite. It's a stateroom. A suite has 2 rooms, and this just has 1. Nordic penthouse stateroom. It's a little larger. And this is the Nordic Junior suite. And we didn't show you the owner suite. That's for another time. But now you will get a much better overview of what the ship looks like in this short video. All right. This is our first break for you to ask questions. And Lauren is there. But before you start, Lauren, Aaron, is this Killarney? Where is this? Where is this particular shot taken of the ship? And there's these steep. That's not Killarney, is it? Is this in Lake Superior?
Yeah, it actually looks like it's it could be along the south side of Manitoulin Island. Or,
okay.
Yeah, it's. I've been trying to figure it out as well.
Okay. All right. So that would be in Lake Huron on the Canadian side. just for people that aren't familiar with Manitoulin Island. All right, Lauren, are you there? Sorry.
Yes, hello. Thank you all for giving us all this valuable information. Now, we are receiving a lot of great questions and comments from our guests who are tuning into the presentation. We'll start first with Paula, Lizette, Lisa, Margaret, Joanne, and several others would like to know how many guests do our expedition ships carry?
378 souls. That does not include the crew, but guest beds, 378.
Great, thank you. And can you remind some of our viewers about some of the things Viking does not do across all our journeys, particularly when it comes to age restrictions?
Our no children rule. No children under 18. It's an adult only ship, and that's not because we don't like children. We love children, especially our own and our grandchildren. But as the saying goes, you may love your own grandchildren, but maybe not someone else's grandchildren necessarily. So we keep it for adults, and that's just a choice we made. If you like to do multi-generational travel, as long as the third generation is older than 18, we love to have you. If the younger generation is under 18, there are others outside. And this is, to talk a little bit more about our infamous no list. We just like to make sure that we're not trying to be everything to everyone, because that it's impossible. It's impossible to make everyone happy all the time, and so we carefully choose. We don't have casinos on our ocean ships, and you will not have rock climbing walls, and we don't like to do things that we can't do well. On our river ships, we don't have gyms. You can use gyms. We have connections. You can use gyms ashore, and that's kind of how we like to do things. Tell you no if we believe that we cannot offer you a genuine and a good yes.
Great, thank you. I have Deborah who would like if you could clarify if U.S. travelers need a passport for the Great Lakes.
Aaron, you're the Canadian. You're the non-U.S. Citizen. Yes. What's the situation right now? Can you still travel across the border with a driver's license? It's probably better to bring your passport, huh?
No, you need a passport to travel, and you'll cross the border a few times on some of the voyages. So please have your passport.
Yep. Very good. All right.
Great. Thank you. Pierre, Barbara, Anne, Joan, Marion, and Catherine are inquiring about what level of fitness or mobility is recommended for guests interested in the Great Lakes itineraries.
Oh, that is something that Aaron and Jørn both should have a view on.
Yeah, I can say something about that. Our voyages, they visit sometimes towns, cities, where we go ashore via the gangway of the ship we come alongside. Other places, like on the northern shores of Ontario in Canada, we use our Zodiacs, and then you just need to be able to swing your legs over the pontoon of the Zodiac. And sometimes it's uneven terrain in these places, but so you can always travel and be on board the ship. That is doesn't require any physical no physical requirements at all. Some activities like kayaking are a little bit more strenuous and you need some mobility, but I'm sure everyone will find it comfortable on these trips.
Mm-hmm. Aaron, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say that anytime you're disembarking the ship, either by tender or by Zodiac, we've got elevators or lifts down to the embarkation deck, but there'll still be 4 to 6 steps that you go down to step down into the boat. There's good hand railings, and there'll be people there to assist. But that is sort of a mobility restriction or requirement. And then I would just say that these ships are incredibly comfortable. We make it almost hard for you to choose to get off the ship sometimes, just because there are such comfortable sitting areas with so much resource material and so many things to do on board the ship. From there's a puzzle table, there's an incredible library of books, reference books about the different regions you're traveling, as well as just interesting stories to read, and then there's the Expedition Central and so on. So if at times you feel, I got off the ship yesterday, I maybe pushed myself a little bit too much today, I'm going to take it easy and recuperate. Then hit the spa, find a chair in the living room with some windows or the Explorer's Lounge, go to a lecture in the aula, and you can have a wonderful day.
All right. You sold me. My next expedition cruise, I'm not getting off the ship. Excellent. Lauren, next question.
All right. I have Noah and Roland are wondering if Viking provides any gear or equipment for the Great Lakes expeditions.
Yes, we do. Jørn, can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. We do have boots, we have pants, we have hiking sticks or poles, and there are binoculars in each stateroom. So a lot of sort of the basic equipment we deliver. And then we have packing lists. When you book, you get good packing lists before you take away from home. So yeah, much of the equipment and most of the equipment that you see anywhere where we sail with expedition ships, you get on board in the Great Lakes as well.
Yeah, I think it's important. And Jørn, I'm going to ask you to say something in Norwegian. Basically, it was Roald Amundsen, the great explorer, who said, there's no such thing as bad weather. There's just bad preparation and bad clothing. How do you say that in Norwegian?
Det finnes ikke dårlig vær, bare dårlige forberedelser og dårlige klær.
There you have it. So we help you in our preparation and with the things we have on board to be kind of weatherproof. Okay, Lauren, next question.
All right, thank you. We'll ask one more question before moving on, and then all those other great questions we'll try and get to at the end. I have Heidi, Dale, and a few others are very interested in submarine dives. Do all guests have the opportunity to travel in them, and how deep the submarines can dive?
How deep the submarines can dive, we'll probably have Aaron talk about that a little bit. We find that not everyone wants to, and mostly we have enough dives, with the exception of some itineraries where we can't dive enough. But usually, Aaron, I think we have enough dives to satisfy everyone that wants to, right?
Yes, the submarine program, you'll have the opportunity to pre-book that in My Viking Journey, and so you can sign up for that. If that fills up, then we just add you onto a wait list, and when you get to the ship, the team will look for a spot to book you into. And then on board the ship, the chief submarine pilot will sort of explain in a briefing, and explain what days we'll be diving, and you'll get your schedule of what your dive is or when it's going to be. And the subs dive, our maximum depth of diving for the submarines is 300 meters. So just under 1,000 feet. However, generally, where dives on the Great Lakes are around the 40 to 80 meter range, just because of the nature of water depth where we're traveling.
Okay.
Right. Can I add a little fun fact? The Great Lakes aren't all that deep, and our subs go to 300 meters, and there's the deepest in the Lake Superior, the deepest in the Great Lakes altogether is 406 meters. So whenever we dive, we usually have the sea, the bottom closer to the surface than what the subs can do in terms of depth.
Mm-hmm. All right. Lauren, was that it, or did you say you had 4 more questions?
That's it for this round.
That's it for this round. Okay, so then we dive into the itineraries. And the first one that we wanted to talk to you about is Niagara and the Great Lakes. And I think that is probably our most popular itinerary, simply because it has Niagara Falls in it, it has Toronto in it, it has Detroit, and it has Mackinac Island, and it has some really interesting natural ingredients, if you will, as well. On day 3, you visit Point Pelee, which is a haven for migratory birds, and you can get there by land, but it's much more fun to actually get off the ship and into a Zodiac and land on the beach that way. And Alpena in Michigan is known for the Thunder Bay National Marine Sanctuary, where the focus is also very much under what lies beneath the surface in that bay, in Thunder Bay. Let me just, here's a perfect map. And we've talked about the Great Lakes quite a bit already. And this is the first time that you get a map that you can only see a little bit of Lake Superior there, top left-hand corner, but this is pretty good for the other lakes. So this itinerary starts on Lake Ontario, then you travel through the Welland Canal, and the ships are indeed built so that they can just fit through that canal that bypasses Niagara Falls in Ontario. And we come out in Port Colborne to then traverse Lake Erie, visit Point Pelee. You're still in Ontario here. Make it through the Narrows that have Detroit on their shores, and then you venture into Lake Huron, and there you can see Alpena. Not all that well known, but we kind of helped a little bit putting it on the map. Mackinac Island, of course, needs no introduction, the island without any cars, and this one ends in Milwaukee. And the great thing about many of these itineraries, and we'll get into that in a minute, is this is relatively short, but it's eminently combinable with other things. Let me just show you a few pictures to get an idea of what it is that you'll see. This is in downtown Ontario. This is the Gooderham building. It's one of those, what do you call them? One of those triangular buildings. What are those called? Flatiron buildings. It's a flatiron building just to the east of the downtown Toronto area. And that's what you see in the background, those skyscrapers. That's the financial district. This shows you how the ship goes through the Welland Canal. And this actually is fairly early on in the Welland Canal. You cannot see just how narrow it gets in the locks where the ship just barely fits. When we decided that we were going to go into the Great Lakes, we had already had a preliminary design of what the vessel would look like, and we had to just narrow it down a little bit to make sure that it would really fit comfortably. This is Niagara Falls, and of course that little boat is what used to be called the Maid of the Mist. It's no longer, has a different name now, but the best thing to do there is really go on that little boat and get into that mist cloud for just a spectacular experience. There's water all around you, and there's very little that beats that. If you're a little, if that is a little too intimidating, you can certainly watch it from the shore. But if you want, this is what you should do. This is Point Pelee. And it really sticks out like this into Lake Erie. Lake Erie is relatively shallow, and it sits right on a flyway for migratory birds. And it is busy with all manners of birds throughout the year. This is why the Canadians made it into a national park. It's of great value and of importance for bird life in North America. This is Detroit, the Motor City, and we offer a number of things there. Probably the most popular in Detroit is the Henry Ford Museum, which is basically a collection of gadgets, tools, cars, planes, trains that chronicle I would say, 20th century technical development in the United States, and it's quite something. It was started by Henry Ford's private collection, but eventually it grew into something that spanned more than a century, or now spans more than a century. This is Alpena. And Alpena, as I mentioned, it is at the end of a very long road through the northern Michigan forest, and it opens, it kind of has turned its back to the forest a little bit, and it opens onto Lake Huron. And so there are an awful lot of activities that we offer there that have to do with the water, whether it's bird watching on a spot that juts out into the lake, or looking for shipwrecks below the surface. There's an awful lot of water activities that you can participate in Alpena. Mackinac Island is, as I mentioned, the island where there are no cars. You can go on a bicycle trip. You can go with us on one of these horse-drawn carriages. And yes, we do offer you brunch at the famous hotel on Mackinac Island, and then you end up in Milwaukee. So that's the shortest version of a voyage that we do on the Great Lakes. And here's a little video that shows you a little bit more.
Experience both the wonder of world-class cities and the splendor of unspoiled wilderness on this fascinating 8-day itinerary with Viking. Your journey begins in cosmopolitan Toronto. Sample a tasty selection of foods at the celebrated St. Lawrence Market, which dates back to the 1800s. Or explore the halls of stately Casa Loma, an opulent chateau built for an electricity tycoon, right in the middle of the city. With 98 rooms, the luxurious castle took nearly 2 million man-hours to construct. Set sail across Lake Ontario to Port Colborne, a charming city at the southern end of the Welland Canal. This man-made marvel, carved from the earth in the early 19th century, is your gateway to Lake Erie. It was built to circumvent Niagara Falls, one of nature's most majestic displays, where thunderous arcs of water plunge more than 160 feet to the river far below. Your Viking vessel is an ideal base from which to explore and learn. A floating classroom sharing the science behind the fascinating ecosystems you're sailing through. Your expedition-class ship is equipped with watercraft so you can investigate intriguing shorelines up close during your voyage. You'll sail the length of Lake Erie, pausing at Point Pelee National Park, Ontario, where you can catch a glimpse of migratory birds and other wildlife in Canada's most ecologically diverse national park. Then it's on to Detroit, Michigan, and its picturesque, revitalized riverfront. Immense Lake Huron, one of the top 5 freshwater lakes in the world, comes next. Along the way, a day of exploration at Alpena, Michigan, near Thunder Bay, where the opportunities to immerse yourself in nature are plentiful. On Mackinac Island, you may feel as though you've stepped back in time. This sleepy, carless village remains little changed since its founding in 1780. Your Viking experience concludes in Milwaukee, a delightful city in which to close your memorable Niagara and the Great Lakes journey.
Okay, and then the next voyage that we'll talk about are the Great Lakes Treasures. This is a relatively new itinerary. It goes all the way to the Windy City of Chicago that you see here in the image. And I'm going to use the map because that shows you kind of where we are. And there's a lot of little squiggles in red because we do quite a bit of work here, if you will, in Georgian Bay and in the North Channel. This is all on the Canadian shores, and this allows us to use our to make very extensive use of all of our, what we call the toys, the SOB, the Special Operations Boat, the RIB. Aaron, this is your neck of the woods, so I should not be talking. You should be talking a little bit about what it is like to travel in this area.
Yeah, thank you, Joost. And Georgian Bay and the North Channel of Lake Huron have long been very well-known cruising destinations, not just for ships, but also for pleasure boaters. So pleasure boats come from all over the eastern seaboard up through the Hudson Canal and into the Great Lakes, and explore the especially the North Channel of Lake Huron. So small bedrock islands, pink granite, windswept white pines, narrow channels between the islands. Not so fantastic if you've got a 50-foot motor yacht or a big ship, but once we put you down into the Zodiacs or into the special operations boats, or you captain your own craft in a kayak, and you start to explore these little channels with our guides and with local guides, it really is really fantastic adventuring. We are looking for wildlife on the shorelines, bird life, and just the stunning scenery. There'll be lots of stops for photographs and so on.
Okay. All right. Very good. So that's why if you look at this map, it looks a little squiggly up there, but that's why we do it. We spend a lot of time there. And then we'll start again. We'll walk you through some pictures, and I'll make some comments. Milwaukee is where this journey starts, and as you've already noticed, the last journey ended in Milwaukee. I feel some combination of voyages in your future, maybe. Mackinac Island. Perfect picture here. This is not of the horse-drawn carriages. We like to get you out on a bicycle if we can. It is great fun, and you get to determine a little bit more for yourself where you want to go. You could ride around the entire island. This, Aaron, I think you would agree, this is a perfect picture of Georgian Bay, right? This encapsulates what it's like.
Yeah, it sure does. The pink granite, the windswept white pines, the wild rice you see in the shallows, and there's quite a heritage of indigenous people on these waters, and we will interact with some of the various nations, indigenous nations in this region as we travel Georgian Bay.
Okay. This is another picture that shows you, in this case, Fraser Bay. That is a little sub-bay, if you will, of Georgian Bay. And it's obviously it's a great place for taking pictures. It's also a great place for making paintings and drawings. It's actually the area that inspired the Group of Seven, a group of 20th century Canadian artists that did an awful lot to promote this area and to make it, to make it known, not just in Canada, but around the world. And this is, they call this is a flower pot, right, Aaron? They call these flower pots, these rocks. It's not the only one, but this is certainly one of them.
Yeah, this is Big Flower Pot on Flower Pot Island, and there's a slightly smaller one beside, which they've imaginatively named Little Flower Pot. And these are limestone formations, so old coral reefs that from when the lakes were sort of a different formation, and this is the remains of them, and an option in Bruce Peninsula National Park and Fathom 5 Marine Park at Tobermory on the south end of Georgian Bay. This stunning turquoise waters. And a really stunning boat cruise around Flower Pot or out to Flower Pot Island. You can go ashore there as well as looking at some shipwrecks.
And these are the Benjamins. And you talked about this area, so I'm moving forward. Sault Ste. Marie is on the actually there's a Michigan side and there is an Ontario side. Here you're on the border. This is an area through which an awful lot of traffic passes. The locks, the Soo locks, are probably the biggest attraction when you travel to Sault Ste. Marie because they're massive. They still see quite a bit of traffic. That's where the Lakers, those ships specifically built for the Great Lakes, that's where those Lakers pass all the way to Thunder Bay and to Duluth in Minnesota. And then this is the Door Peninsula, a part of Wisconsin. We dock in Algoma, and this juts out into Lake Michigan. It's a beautiful natural area where obviously we do an awful lot of things that it has a few little villages that we visit as well, but this is again a place for hiking, a place for wandering around and about in the forests and in the hills, and the Niagara Escarpment that still runs through the peninsula. And then this is the Windy City. That needs no introduction. We offer a host of different ways of experiencing Chicago. There's a traditional city tour there, but you can also do things on a boat. You can focus a lot on architecture. We try to show you the city in as many aspects as we possibly can. And then you end again in Milwaukee. This particular image is if you look at on the right hand side in the middle of the picture, that's the art museum, a building by a Spanish architect called Santiago Calatrava. And it looks like this is a bird spreading its wings. Those wings actually move. It's a moving building. And I would say that the art collection is great. The building is almost just as good. Okay, so now we're moving into the Great Lakes collection, and here's another image of the Benjamins. And what you will see here, and this is why I will start moving a little faster, because you will find an awful lot of ports that we've already covered a little bit in previous itineraries. The Great Lakes collection is called the Great Lakes collection because it covers all 5 of the Great Lakes. So if that is your goal, this is it. It's that simple. You don't have to think about it long and hard. If you have the time and the wherewithal and you would like to see all 5 of them, do this. And it's a perfect, Jørn, Aaron, disagree with me if you dare, but this is a perfect itinerary, I think. This shows you everything that the Great Lakes have to offer.
We don't dare disagreeing on that. We completely agree.
Okay, good. All right, very good. Then we have Niagara and the Great Lakes treasures. And lo and behold, this is a combo because this is the Toronto to Milwaukee and then the Milwaukee to Milwaukee itinerary that we spoke about earlier. So this is really just to demonstrate that you can spend, up to almost 3 weeks traveling with us and seeing everything that the Great Lakes have to offer. This is that itinerary on a map. This one, and again, this offers a lot of Great Lakes. I think I love it for that. I love it that you spend all that time in Georgian Bay and in the North Channel. If you're more of a collector, well, then you don't do this one. Then you do the Great Lakes collection that takes you all the way to Lake Superior. And then something that this is, now you're going to be a little confused because this is actually Torres del Paine in Chile. And what on earth does Chile have to do here? We have, and this was actually our owner and founder, Torsten Hagen. He's like, why would we not offer a journey that starts in the US, that starts in Milwaukee, and takes you all the way to Antarctica? Because you can do that. If you stay on the ship long enough, and this one is 2 months, you can do this. You can leave, you can take that little trip to Milwaukee and you'll end up on the other end of the world, literally. So we call these longitudinal world cruises. You can book them in both directions. This one here, as it is featured, travels from Buenos Aires to Milwaukee. And just let that sink in. Buenos Aires, Argentina to Milwaukee. That's a world cruise. That takes you around the world just in a different way. This, by the way, takes you to the Galapagos if you want, and to Machu Picchu in Peru. So it's not just an epic journey by the length. It's also an epic journey by all the things that you see. And then finally, we have ways to extend your stays if you opt for a shorter version of any particular cruise. We have extensions. Those are generally 2 or 3 nights in a hotel. We want to, sometimes you just want a few nights to position yourself, yes? And so we offer these city packages that are relatively open. That means we might offer an excursion here or there, but generally this is for you to design around your own ideas. And in each hotel, we have a Viking host that will help you if you're a little short on your own ideas. That's possible. Then we help you make the best of your time. This is what all of this organized travel is all about. You have precious time, and we make very good use of that time. And we do this on our city packages, also on the somewhat longer extensions where we do what we do on the ships, and that is we offer you a lot of experiences that we include in that particular package. This is Toronto 2 nights. The Lakes of Ontario is 3 nights where we do quite a bit of, exploring the southern shores of Lake Huron on the Canadian side. And then we have 2 nights in Milwaukee. Again, that's kind of a breath catcher. And 3 nights in Georgian Bay, where if that is what you really like to do, this is actually perfect to do before you travel on the Niagara and Great Lakes itinerary, because that has a lot of great cities, but it's a little short on wilderness. You add the Georgian Bay extension and you're in perfect shape. You have both. But now, Lauren, we want to answer more questions.
Yes, thank you, Joost. I have Stephen and Karen are asking, what will the weather be like in these areas?
Aaron, that's a you question.
Yeah, we start in the Great Lakes in late April and we go through until October. And so over the course of that time, we start with fairly cool spring weather. We get those long days in sort of April, May into June, and temperatures rising. We can have brisk, occasionally still frost in the morning on an April trip or also on an October trip, but then we get up into the in Fahrenheit, I guess it's about 190 degrees Fahrenheit in July, August, 95 maybe, and beautiful, beautiful hot summer days tempered by the cool wind off the Great Lakes. So that freshens you up at the end of the day. And so we have the whole range. Bring rain gear. We do get rain squalls coming through, and sometimes in August we get those thunder showers in the afternoon. If you're from the Great Lakes region, you know the ones I mean. And but they come and then the sun comes out afterwards, and you have a beautiful evening.
There you have it.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Now, what are the sailing conditions like in the Great Lakes? Sandra and Ron are asking, how common is it for expeditions or people on expeditions to get seasick while on the Great Lakes?
Gentlemen, either one of you can take this one. I can say something about it. It's generally calmer on the Great Lakes than out on the big ocean. However, Lake Superior is vast. When you're in the middle of Lake Superior, you see nothing but horizon. You don't see land. And if the wind picks up, it can be some waves, but nothing like on the big ocean. Our ship is super stable. It is designed for conditions that are
above and beyond what we ever experience in the Great Lakes. So usually it's very, very stable. And if anything, there's just a gentle rocking ever so slightly, and most likely in Lake Superior.
Okay, very good.
Great, thank you, Jørn. Daniel and Jody are eager to learn about what sort of wildlife they may encounter in the Great Lakes. Would they see any bears?
Aaron, would they see any bears?
Yeah, we do on the voyages, the Great Lakes Collection and the Great Lakes Treasures voyages that go up into Georgian Bay and also onto the north shore of Lake Superior. We've had some pretty good luck with bear sightings. Bears are, of course, they're wildlife, and so we're often doing our cruising in Zodiacs and special operations boats. So if we get word that there's a bear in the area, then we go look and we approach slowly and we spread the word around the rest of the boat drivers so that everybody gets a chance to share.
Mm-hmm.
We see on occasion we'll see deer. On occasion, we've seen the odd moose. On occasion, beavers, otters on the water, and then lots of waterfowl. And it's if you're out up early in the morning or out late in the evening, sometimes you're lucky enough to catch the loons, and the common loon or northern diver is another name for the loon, doing its dance, and it's quite iconic calls on the lakes in the evening.
Okay, excellent.
Thank you. We have a few guests requesting clarification on if the submarine, kayak, or Zodiac activities are included in the booking cost.
The submarine's not, and that's simply a matter of, not everyone wants to do it, so we decided not to include it in the overall ticket price. But the kayaks, the special operations boat, the Zodiacs, that's all included in the price. Yes.
Great, thank you. Anna is curious to know what sort of talks or presentations are features on board the ship during the Great Lakes expeditions.
Jørn, Aaron, either one of you can answer this one.
I think Aaron is the better one.
Okay.
No pressure. Well, our team of Great Lakes specialists, it generally includes a geologist. The Great Lakes have a wealth of geologic history, weathering, signs of glaciation, that granite is sculpted. And so our geologists are very busy talking about that, the formation of the Great Lakes, the history of that region as told by the scourings on the rocks. We tend to have an ornithologist or a birder a bird specialist on most of our voyages, and a higher predator biologist. So perhaps a terrestrial biologist, someone with an expertise in some of the wildlife we're going to see in the region, or it could be an ecologist, someone with an expertise in Great Lakes fisheries. We sort of mix through on covering the culture and history of the region. In addition to our specialists, our general naturalists for the region are also have topics of interest. So if something's missing from the specialist, generally our general naturalists are filling the gaps in presentations. And we have a series of lectures in the aula that are generally about 40 minutes in length, 40 to 45 minutes in length, as well as our living room sessions, which are about 15 to 20 minutes in length, less formal presentations throughout the voyage. And at the end of each day, our specialists and our general naturalists will recap in the aula. They'll recap the actual day's events with some of the highlights to share often images of what was experienced during the day.
Okay, good.
Great, thank you. Now, are expeditions physically challenging? Can you sign up for a less challenging excursion or exploration during the day?
Yes. Yeah. It's you don't, I mean, I know that expedition sounds like exertion, but it's something where you can easily calibrate for yourself what is like all of our excursions. We rank them by demanding, too easy. And so you can go by that. If you have any questions, you can always ask. And on board, the staff is really used to making sure that, let me put it this way, they'll make sure that you don't get yourself in trouble. That's what they're there for. They're more than anything else, they're safety specialists, especially when it comes to getting in and out of a Zodiac, getting in and out of a kayak. All of that is very closely watched. And so there are always excursions for people that are not very active, excursions for people that are quite active. And it's a simple matter of calibration. Sometimes it happens that someone boards the ship and says, well, I can actually do a lot more than I thought. Can I change around a little bit? And we say, yes, of course. If you can do a little bit more than you thought you could, great. If, on the other hand, you're more tired than you thought you were going to be, or you're not as you're a little bit more physically challenged than you thought you were going to be, well, then you can, if you will, make it a little slower, go a little, don't go as long or don't go as hard, if you will. So there are always ways to find you the right experience for you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. James and Jess are asking or are curious to know if mosquitoes are a concern on the Great Lakes trips during the shore excursions.
Aaron, what about mosquitoes?
Yeah, we do in sort of June into mid-July, we'd have mosquitoes and black flies on the Great Lakes, and bring some bug spray or bring a bug net if you're prone to it. Some people react quite strongly to bug bites, and we'll also have something available on board. Mostly the guides, the leading hikes, will have some bug spray with them as well if you don't bring any with you. They're kind of the price to pay to be in such a beautiful area at that time of year. We also have the mayflies, which will come out in May, amazingly enough, and they adorn the decks of the ship, and they can be a little annoying for the deck team, and have to clean the decks and clean all these dead flies in the morning off the deck of the ship. But that is a part of the ecology of the Great Lakes. These mayflies are very important food for the fish in the Great Lakes, as well as the bird life around the Great Lakes. And our scientists on board the ship will actually take advantage of this debris on the deck in the morning to teach you about it, and they don't need any excuse really to give you a lecture on anything. So they see some mayflies and they've got a mic in their hand, and they'll and some pictures on the screen, and they'll teach you all about the ecology of the Great Lakes. And so it's where we do have issues with insects, we try to turn those into experiences rather than issues.
Excellent.
Thank you. Now we are right at time, but we wanted to ask one more question from Lori. You've all traveled these Great Lakes itineraries and know them so well. What is your top favorite activity or shore excursion that she absolutely shouldn't miss?
I'll go first because it has that picture of me in a kayak. And though, at that time I wasn't very good at it, I think I got a little better. Kayaking, especially along these, and you saw it in some of these pictures, but these rocks, when you are on the big ship, they look small. When you're among them, they actually look like real size, and you're in this different world in a kayak. That was, to me, that was just the most, that was such an incredible experience, that in that small little area with a kayak, all of a sudden, something that looks small from the big ship looks like a landscape. And that I just thought was amazing. So for me, it's kayaking.
Jørn, go ahead.
Yeah, what to pick? There are so many highlights. On that initial picture in the presentation, I'm on top of Casson Peak, named after A.J. Casson, one of the group of 7 artists, famous artists that were inspired by that particular area. You have Bay Finn on the right-hand side, one of the longest freshwater fjords
in the world, and a fjord and a Norwegian, that is a good combination. That hike up there was really a highlight for me. Really wonderful.
Aaron?
Yeah, and I came from guiding in Georgian Bay into the expedition cruise industry, so I'm going to throw it out and completely surprise Joost and Jørn. And I'm actually going to talk about Toronto. As a Canadian, if you're not from Toronto, you get tired of Torontonians reminding you that Toronto is one of the centers of the world, but in their mind. And but actually, I had the opportunity last summer to jump in a Zodiac cruise around the outer islands of the Toronto Islands and look at the skyline of Toronto. And as a longtime expedition leader, an expedition polar regions expedition guide, and someone loving the wilderness, it actually amazed me how incredible the experience was to Zodiac cruise, or to take a special operations boat cruise along a cityscape and the skyline in the background, and just to see that, to have that completely different experience in the Great Lakes was, for me, was actually mind-opening. And I think sometimes that's why we travel, isn't it? To open your mind to something different, to a different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm just going to throw in another plug, because you talked about Toronto. The cities along the Great Lakes often have a somewhat bad rep. They're Rust Belt and all that. Not true. You go to Cleveland, you go even to Detroit, to Chicago, to Milwaukee. They're wonderful cities. And I do believe that what adds to them is you arrive there on the water, like the original voyageurs and the original trappers. You get to these places from the water, and it gives you a different perspective. So I wouldn't knock the cities, even though, kayaking among the rocks was my favorite thing. So there you have it.
All right. Thank you so much, Jørn, Aaron, and Joost, for taking the time to answer all of our viewers' questions. We do apologize for running a bit long, but we hope you've all taken some valuable information from our session today. We've received so many more questions than we can answer. So for those guests who still have questions that we were unable to get to, we will soon be in touch with answers to those questions. And if you are a travel advisor, please reach out to your local DBD with your question. This webinar link will be shared to rewatch later today, as well as at one point on Viking.TV. So thank you.
Thank you all.